What's up everyone, welcome back to another What If video. We're now back to covering one of my favorite what ifs on the channel, what if Gohan and Goten were twins. Let's start off with a brief recap. In the last part, we saw the conclusion to the Buu saga. Elder Kai's ritual was finished, and Ultimate Goku came back to fight Buu, but to no avail. Thankfully, Goku received the gift of the Potara earrings, and while he got absorbed, he was able to give them to Gohan and Goten, who proceeded to fuse into a new warrior, Hanten. Hanten was able to defeat Buu, and now, the Earth is once again at peace. However, we know after the Buu saga a new threat appears. A certain destructive god. With the recap out of the way, let's now get into this part. So some time passes since the last part. Life goes on pretty normally for everyone and very peacefully. Pretty much like usual, Gohan gets married to Videl, and Goten marries Erasa. They've completed high school and now they're moving on with their lives as adults. And as for everyone else, life is going pretty great too. There's no threats on Earth as of now, and things are going very smoothly. But that's all about to change. Far away, Beerus wakes up from his nap after many years of sleeping. He had some premonition about some Super Saiyan god or something like that, and he knows that there's a few Saiyans alive on Earth thanks to Whis, so he decides maybe he should check it out and see if this rumor is true. He and Whis head there, much to the shock of Vegeta, who knows all too well who this is. He's pretty terrified, but no one else really knows what to be scared about. And Beerus makes himself known, and he seems pretty rational right now. They invite him to join in on the festivities, and he has a pretty good time. Fat Buu was never saved in the last part, so he's not here to actually interfere with Beerus by taking the pudding. Beerus gets to taste his pudding and it's pretty delicious. But he doesn't want to delay any further. He's here for a reason, to see the Super Saiyan god that he thought of. No one really knows what he's talking about. I mean, they show off Super Saiyan and even Super Saiyan 2, but they don't know of any Super Saiyan god. He's a little bit disappointed, but he realized that it might have just been a stupid dream and it's not true. However, Whis brings up the fact that this Earth has Dragon Balls and they could probably ask Shenron about it, just to see if it's actually a thing, to make sure Beerus is content. Luckily, all the Dragon Balls are on the ship already, so they just gather them, and then Shenron is summoned. Overall, the rest goes pretty normal. They figure out what the ritual is after trying it out once, but the question is, who should they give Super Saiyan God to? Well, anyone would really be a good option, and I know you guys would probably want it to be given to someone else, but I feel like the most realistic option is Goku. Goku has been consistently training, and he has Ultimate now, so he's definitely going to be the strongest of the group here. Ultimate alone would put him ahead of everyone by a pretty decent margin, so they decide to give it to the strongest person who would have the best shot at actually pleasing Beerus. And as for the fight itself, it goes pretty much the same, so there's not much to cover here. Following the fight, Beerus even offers to train Goku, as well as any of the other Saiyans who want to come. Gohan and Goten are offered it, but they don't really want to. They need to stay here on Earth and focus on their family lives. But maybe in the future they would be interested in dropping by and visiting. They also are kinda interested in learning the Super Saiyan God form, but not enough to actually go on a different planet for months on end to learn it. Even Trunks gets offered it, but he wants to stay here and train with Piccolo as well as focus on his schoolwork. You might notice I'm also using a different Trunks design here. That's because he deserves to be aged up. And as the later parts go on, he's gonna get older because he was born a few years earlier in this scenario, so you're gonna see a new design for him in the later parts. But life proceeds to go pretty normally. Even though they're training with Beerus, Goku occasionally does get to see his family, and even trains with Gohan and Goten for a bit, showing off some of the new powers he learned from Beerus. These multiple interactions with Goku allow Gohan and Goten to eventually get God Ki. They're not gonna get Super Saiyan God, but they become those godlike Saiyans that Goku and Vegeta were in Resurrection F in their base forms. It's not Super Saiyan God, but it's a start. And they don't know where this power came from because they don't realize how God Ki works, but they're not going to question it. It's an inadvertent side effect of Goku visiting his family, requested by Gohan and Goten who want to see how strong he's gotten. And it's good that they got this little power up because now Frieza is going to be revived, and Frieza is going to come to Earth to get his revenge on those two half Saiyans and Goku and Vegeta. He won't be made into a fool this time. So Resurrection F begins, and the remains of the Dragon Team are there to fight off the Frieza Force, including Trunks now, who's been training enough to where he could probably use this as a good practice. Of course, he'd have no problem with Frieza Force fodder. Wow, try saying that 3 times fast. And of course, Goten is there too in addition, but anyways, this fight goes pretty easily. They don't have any problems with the Frieza Force. But now, Frieza himself shows up. He definitely has gotten stronger, but is it going to be enough to take on Gohan and Goten? Well, he doesn't mess around. He powers up right away into his final form, and Gohan and Goten realize how strong he's actually gotten. They both go into Super Saiyan 2, and it's actually enough to hold Frieza off for a bit, and overpower him a little. They do some damage to Frieza and wear him out a little bit, and Frieza's pretty impressed with how strong they are, but he has something else up his sleeve. his new golden form, which he proceeds to show off in all its glory. Okay, yeah, this might be a problem. They're still waiting for Goku and Vegeta to get contacted so they can come back to Earth, and they need to come up with some different strategy to actually hold Frieza off for now. It would be great if they had the Batara earrings and could fuse right away, but they sadly don't have access to them right now. But even without Batara, they still can use their other method of fusion, the fusion dance, which they haven't used in a while. They can't create Hanten, but they could bring Goten back. They appeal to Frieza's ego and tell him that if he wants a real challenge, that he should allow them to do this technique that they have. They don't tell him what it is, but they promise him that it'll be worth his time. Frieza thinks that no technique they could use could actually overpower him, so he allows them to do it as one last shot of saving their planet. He decides to throw them a bone before they die. And that was a pretty big mistake. They proceed to do the dance, and Frieza watches in awe as they fuse into one person. He's actually just kinda confused. Why did they turn into one fighter, and what will that do for them? Is this just them added together, or is this someone else completely different altogether? The light dissipates, and the fusion is revealed. It's been a while since we've been in this body, but we're still glad to be back. Goten introduces himself to Frieza as a new warrior that isn't Gohan or Goten, but two of them combined into one, someone much stronger than either of them combined. Frieza doesn't buy it, and he actually sees this as a handicap. It's one person instead of two. There's no way he'd actually be stronger than both of them combined. This is great, his guard is down, so he's not going to expect what's coming next. Especially after the last time Goten appeared as a kid, he doesn't want to screw around here and get too cocky, and he knows the fusion has a time limit, so he doesn't want to waste any time. While Frieza's guard is down, Goten appears behind him and kicks him into the ground. He then races towards the ground before Frieza can get there and kicks him back up, basically playing a game of catch with himself. Frieza let his guard down and now he's paying the price for it. He's flung back and forth by Goten, who's going all over the place, not going Super Saiyan in order to make the fusion last longer. Frieza does attempt to fight back, but him and base Goten are actually somewhat evenly matched, considering the fact that Frieza has took some damage beforehand and he lost a bit of stamina. Not to mention this is a God Ki fusion, and I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that it's going to be a little bit below where Blue Goku is. We know that fusion is a massive multiplier. The fight goes on for a little bit longer, but Goten decides he needs to finish it now. Without Frieza even noticing, Goten goes Super Saiyan and fires a Kamehameha at him. Frieza blocks the blast, but when the smoke dissipates, Frieza looks around and sees something that terrifies him. Dozens, maybe even hundreds of different pieces of energy are around him. As Goten keeps flinging blasts near Frieza, what could this even be? The blast starts circling around Frieza, and eventually, they go in towards him. The Kamehameha was a distraction, but this is the main course. A superpowered Hell Zone grenade. The blast hit Frieza and killed him, as Goten continues throwing more and more Ki blasts towards it, even briefly powering up into Super Saiyan 2 while doing it. Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and Goten weren't enough to take on Golden Frieza, they weren't even close. But Goten was actually a pretty good match, and outpowers Frieza once he goes into Super Saiyan 2. The Earth is saved and Resurrection F is over, and now we get into the Universe 6 tournament. Champa shows up like normal, and then the tournament is planned. And now Universe 7 needs to make a team. Beerus doesn't recruit Monaka this time, because Vegeta's constantly trying to get ahead of Goku while Goku's trying to maintain his lead, so he's already motivated enough to be the strongest, and actually catch up to Beerus as a rival. Plus they already unlocked some new forms, Super Saiyan Blue, which they weren't able to show off yet, so their training is going pretty smoothly. But now they need to make a team for this tournament, so Goku and Vegeta are obvious picks, and they go to Earth, and they recruit 3 members, Gohan, Goten, and Piccolo. The weird thing here is that Gohan and Goten accept even though they're working, and Piccolo's actually the one to decline. He'd love to be in the tournament, but he reminds Vegeta that Trunks has been training with him, and doesn't he want to see how well his son would perform here? Vegeta has been training Trunks, but ever since he headed to Beerus' planet, Trunks needed to find some new way to train, so he asked Piccolo, as well as Gohan and Goten, with Piccolo mainly being the one training him and teaching him new stuff. Vegeta actually agrees. He does want to see the progress his son's made, especially now that he's getting older and he's going to be fighting more. Gohan and Goten are also curious to see Trunks in action, since they have that relationship with Trunks where he's kind of like a younger sibling to them, so they want to see how he's progressing. Goku has no objections either, so Trunks actually ends up taking the place of Piccolo here. He needs some real world experience, so Piccolo decides this is for the best, as well as Vegeta, who hasn't seen his son fight in a while. So the tournament begins, and the first person up is Trunks versus Batamo. Trunks actually does pretty well here. At first he's not able to defeat Batamo and he doesn't know what he's going to do. But since punching him won't work, he's going to try to think of some other strategy in order to work around it. You know, Batamo seems pretty stretchy, and that includes his legs and arms too. Trunks has a plan that might work. He suddenly lunges towards Batamo, grabbing one of his arms and pulling it. but Tama doesn't know what Trunks is trying to do, until Trunks grabs his other arm and proceeds to tie them together. But Batamo's arms are now tied up, meaning he can't punch back. Trunks realizes that this means that Batamo can only use his legs now, and Batamo goes in to kick Trunks, which works right into his plan. Trunks grabs into Batamo's leg when he kicks him, and then proceeds to tie that leg into the other one. He's actually pretty surprised with how stretchy Batamo is, but it doesn't matter now. Batamo's all tied up, and Trunks just picks him up and flings him out of the ring. Vegeta laughs at this and is pretty impressed. This is something he would do, like we saw in the Tournament of Power, and he commends his son for thinking outside the box. He's feeling pretty proud right now. But Batamo wasn't particularly that strong, it was just his ability that made him a formidable foe. Trunks' next foe is actually more of a challenge. He's up against someone who looks exactly like Frieza. It's Frost. It's weird because this guy actually seems kinda different from Frieza. He doesn't seem as evil. I mean, he is from a different universe after all, so that doesn't mean he's gonna be exactly like Frieza. But he's the same race as Frieza, it looks like, so he probably had some transformations up his sleeve. After seeing what happened with Frieza during Resurrection F, Trunks doesn't even want to risk having Frost transform, if he could even do that, and the only way to counter Frost right now is to go full power right away and take him out. He's a little nervous thinking that this guy might actually be on a similar level of power as Frieza, especially if he decides to transform, but Trunks goes for it anyways, instantly powering up into Super Saiyan 2 and lunging towards Frost. With a single blow, he flings Frost out of the ring, but he feels a little scratch on his arm. Trunks then falls to the ground, due to the poison that Frost injected in him. While Trunks got a ring out on Frost actually knocked Trunks unconscious, so it's a double KO. They don't know it's because of the poison either, they think it's just some ability that Frost has. So the tournament continues. Vegeta's impressed with Trunks' thinking, as is Piccolo and Gohan and Goten. It seems he's developing into a good warrior, and he has potential to get even stronger. Goten congratulates Trunks, as he heads out into the ring next to face Vegeta. Goten tries to fight the giant robot man, delivering a powerful punch to Vegeta, only to yank his hand back in pain from punching the metal. He then tries some Ki Blast too, because punching him won't actually work, and it seems like that's not working. Goten makes a harmless remark to himself about how powerful this guy is, and how freakishly durable this is, given how sensitive Vegeta is. He shows a bit of a reaction to Goten calling him freakish, even if it was an indirect way of commenting on that. That wasn't even really an insult and Vegeta took offense to it, so Goten thinks he might actually have a weakness to insults. Goten apologizes in advance, not wanting to be mean, but he decides to throw some insults towards Vegeta. Needless to say, Vegeta can't take them that well, and he jumps out of the ring not wanting to fight anymore, feeling offended. Goten apologizes once more, but it's a way of winning, so he doesn't question it. Although he does kind of feel bad about making fun of Vegeta, who seems like a nice guy. Next is Kaba, and Goten is up against him, and he's interested to see that this guy is a Saiyan. He asks Kaba if he could turn into a Super Saiyan, and Kaba doesn't know what that is, so Goten transforms and shows it off himself. Kaba's pretty interested in this form, but he doesn't know how he could actually access it, and Goten doesn't really know how to teach him it. It took him a while of training and also different emotions to actually access the form, so he tells Kaba it's a long process, not knowing that he could teach it the way that Vegeta did. But Kaba seems nice, so Goten wants to make it fair, and he powers back down to base and fights him that way. Kaba's actually pretty powerful even in base, and it's a somewhat friendly fight actually. Kaba isn't fighting as seriously as he did against Vegeta, and Goten is also taking it pretty lightly, and Goten is able to get the win because of this. He promises Kaba that if they ever cross paths again, he'll teach him how to do Super Saiyan, and Gohan might even help him as well. But he tells Kaba to keep it in mind and see if he could access it somehow on his own. Finally, Hit is up, and needless to say, Goten isn't any match for him. Goten goes into Super Saiyan 2, but it's not even enough to counter Hit. After Goten, Goku goes up. And I'll spare you the details because the fight doesn't really go that different, but the fight goes pretty much the same as it did normally. Goku may not have Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken here, but he's actually a little bit stronger, so it's making the fight not as different as it was in canon. He takes the fall, and next, Gohan is up against Hit. Nervous about how this fight will go, he decides to power up to his full power right away, and use something that he hasn't used in a while. Although it is draining, he stacks Kaioken on top of Super Saiyan once again, which he only ever did a few times before in desperate situations. At best, Super Kaioken isn't really going to last too long, maybe a minute. So he decides to see what it could do against Hit, if anything. He launches towards Hit, and Hit flies out of the ring. Everyone's just confused, especially Gohan. There's no way that was powerful enough to take on Hit. And it wasn't, not even really close. Looks like Gohan didn't even need to worry about anything after all, because Hit just took the fall anyways because Goku did. And that concludes the Tournament of Destroyers. And now we move on to the future Trunks arc. And though I normally don't have this villain appear in my what ifs, this time there's a good reason for it. There's no Gohan Black, there's no Vegeta Black, there's no Goten Black. This time we're going with the man himself, Goku Black. but we'll have to wait until the next part for Goku Black to actually show up, and this is where we'll leave off for now. So what did you guys think about this part, and what do you think will happen next? Leave your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below, and I'll be sure to check them out to see what you guys think. Anyways, if you liked this video, be sure to drop a like, and if you haven't already, why not subscribe to the channel, as well as hitting the bell icon to get notified of any future parts of this What If, or to get notified about any other videos I make in the future. Like usual, I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.